Today, I'm going to do the ABCs of sex ed, which is when do I start sex ed, how do I start sex ed, what do I start sex ed with. We have nicknames for it, pet names for it, funny names for it. There is a lot of confusion between vulva and vagina. One of the best things we can do for our children to prevent sexual abuse will also be the same thing. I got one mom telling me that her daughter, 4-year-old daughter, kept telling, Amma, Alva rhymes with vulva, right? In front of all the family members. I also have another explanation for when to start sex ed, which is sex ed starts at 6 months, which was my whole TED talk about. It's there on YouTube, you can go watch it. Hello and welcome to Stories with Maya Zamma. In the sex ed series that I started off with, I started off with a very controversial topic, how children touch their private parts and how parents are uncomfortable with it. Today, I'm going to do the ABCs of sex ed, which is when do I start sex ed, how do I start sex ed, what do I start sex ed with. Ever since I started taking sex ed classes to parents and teachers 6 to 7 years back, till date, this is one of the most common questions, frequently asked questions I'm getting. How do I start? When do I start? What do I start with? And it's a very simple answer, which I'm sure some of you already guessed, which is using the right words for private parts or genitals. Now, as a society, we are not really comfortable using the right scientific or biological word for our own private parts. We have nicknames for it, pet names for it, funny names for it. So it's so difficult to confidently use these words with our children when we ourselves are not confident about it, right? Which means, like I say in all my videos, be kind to yourself. Take it one day at a time. Slowly you will get there. Because when we use nicknames and pet names and vague, weird names for private parts, like say our parents, what did they used to say? They used to say susu porero, or chuchu porero, or that place, this place, andera, indera, anga, India, a lot of vagueness is there, right? This is how sexual shame starts. Yeah, that there are these parts in your body, but shh, nobody speaks about it. Nobody should speak out the words. It's somehow taboo. It's banned. So when we, as the new generation of young parents, then we start using the right terminology for private parts, we are actually eradicating years of decades of sexual shame in a whole generation. It's a wonderful, beautiful, amazing thing we are doing. We need to appreciate ourselves for that. Yeah. Again, coming back to topic. So, what do we start sex ed with? What are the sex organs from there? So, don't have to go in detail into the reproductive system or anything. Just whatever organs are seen on the outside, we have to talk about it confidently. That's how we start. Now, another sub question that comes along with it is, do we use the English words or do we use the regional language words? The problem with regional language words is in, I'm not exaggerating, in almost all regional languages, words for private parts are all swear words. Think about it. Most words, at least, are swear words used in a very derogatory context. So that makes us very uncomfortable to use Malayalam or Tamil or regional language words for private parts. Again, because of which parents are comfortable to use the English words. So it's vulva, vagina, penis. There is a lot of confusion between vulva and vagina. Still there is. Vulva is the outer portion that is visible and vagina is inside the body. So what is seen on the outside is vulva. So vulva, vagina, penis, buttocks, breasts, nipples, whatever words are suitable for the other organs. We just speak about it openly and confidently. Now, what is the main advantage? Children can communicate about all these things in a much more clearer manner. Let's say they are experiencing aches and pains. They can very clearly tell you whether the pain is on the vulva or in the vagina. So, like that, they can very clearly communicate to you or to a doctor about something that they're experiencing in terms of pain or in terms of, uh, some health issue, whatever is going on. They can very clearly tell you what is happening and where it is happening without any feeling of shame and disgust and yucky you feeling won't be there because you're very confidently speaking about it. No. So that is how we sort of erase shame. Yeah. And again, the second point also is a very big advantage, which is prevention of child sexual abuse. Children who can clearly communicate about their private parts are safer from child sexual abuse. It is proven. So I would say one of the best things we can do for our children to prevent sexual abuse will also be the same thing, which is uh, having very open, honest, confident conversations about private parts. Because if we don't attribute shame to those parts, and if a potential abuser or a potential predator asks them to, keep something a secret, they won't be able to connect with it because this is not a secret. We talk very openly about it at home, me and my parents. So, what is the secret about it? So, they won't be able to keep these things secret because, according to them, it is not something that has to be shushed or has to be kept a secret about. So, these children will be more confident to talk about it or share about it compared to children who are always shunned from talking about it, or compared to children who feel really bad and shameful about uh, their own genitalia. Now, the problem is, uh, in most households, even parents are not comfortable to use these words with each other. Then how will we use it with the children, right? So, I think first and foremost, before educating your children, we need to be comfortable with these words. So, we need to do one major ice breaking with our own sex. I would say, even in my sessions, I say, the father and the mother can um, repeat these words to each other. Penis, 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 penis. Vulva, 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 vulva. Yes, it is funny, I know. But when you repeatedly use these words, it gets into the brain and slowly it is start getting normalized. Like how so many words that we would have otherwise not used, when we get to hear it from social media or from the news channels or uh, from some movie or something, no, we start using it with much more confidence. No, same thing will happen. We just have to repeat these words and over a period of time we are confident with it. Let's say we start with it from the moment the child is 1, when we speak openly about it. By the time the child is 2, we would have uttered these words hundreds of times. That's how it happens. That's how normalization happens. So, parents, unburden yourself. We have to get comfortable with all these things before somebody else gets comfortable with our child. Again, certain embarrassing situations will happen. I repeatedly get DMs from parents that, this happened, that happened. I got embarrassed. A couple of things that I can recall is I got one mom telling me that her daughter, 4-year-old daughter, kept telling, Amma, Alva rhymes with Balma, right? In front of all the family members. And another mom has DM'd me saying, um, my son told in the supermarket when so many people were around us that his penis was itchy. Uh, and everyone had a smile on their face and all that. Yes, these things will happen. Please be prepared for such temporary embarrassing situations. Now, these things are, part and parcel of parenting journey, I would say. Now, when to start? Um, my counter question to that is, when will we teach about eyes, nose, ears, etc. to our child? There are even rhymes for that, right? Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. So, when we are teaching a child about other body parts, it is around the same time that they need to be taught about their sexual body parts as well, their genitalia as well. So it all goes hand in hand. There is no separate time when you teach about eyes at 1 years old, but teach about vulva at 2.5 years old. Nothing like that. It's around the same time because you're cleaning them, you're bathing them, you're washing them. A lot of things are happening. So you can, bring it into day-to-day conversations um, about vulva, penis, vulva. Somewhere or the other, you can talk about it. Let's say they are itching. You can ask them, why are you itching your vulva? You know, do you need a wash? Do you need to go to the bathroom? You can ask. In casual conversations, you can bring these words. I also have another explanation for when to start sex ed, which is sex ed starts at 6 months, which was my whole TED talk about. It's there on YouTube. You can go watch it. Even otherwise, I will make a video explaining what, why, etc. But yet, it starts at 6 months. Um, Especially during meal times, there's a lot of boundary related, consent related education that a child is actually imbibing. You don't have to even teach it. It's the child itself is absorbing a lot of information from his environment related to boundaries, etc. Again, that's a huge problem in the society, when people think sex ed is only about sex. It's a lot more than sex. In fact, sex is a very small part of sex ed, I would say. There are so many other things that goes on in a child's life with regard to its sexual body parts. Parents talking about periods, or mom lying down because she is uncomfortable during her periods, or dad feeling ashamed about by pads. A child is watching everything, or let's say parents changing channels, uh, family members coming and gossiping about somebody's pregnancy, or somebody's childbirth experience. So many things are happening around the child. So that's what makes sex ed not just about sex, and it's comprehensive sexuality health education, because safety and boundaries and consent and periods and body autonomy, all these things are coming under that umbrella of comprehensive sexuality health education. And that's one big reason we need to start these conversations very early. We shouldn't think that sex ed is only about sex. Again, coming back to genitals, which are, once again, coming back to genitals and private parts, which is the main highlight of today's topic. It's just another body part. We need to normalize it in our heads first so that we can normalize it with our children. If you're feeling overwhelmed about this whole thing, feel free to check out MyAzama app. There is a session called The Rian Talk, recorded content in 3 languages, wherein you can learn all about comprehensive sexuality health education and how to have these uncomfortable conversations at home. Give it a go. It'll make your life really simple. Meanwhile, I'm sending all of you parents big, big hugs and healing vibes. You are doing a big favor by breaking a lot of generational trauma, by erasing a lot of sexual shame, uh, by imparting comprehensive sexuality health education to our children. We need to be proud of ourselves. You're a wonderful generation of people, and be kind to yourself. Take it one day at a time. It's not simple. It's not easy. I'm with you in this journey. Let me know your comments about what you think about starting your sex education journey. All the best. Take care. Bye.